for at least a year and possibly a year and a half, maybe even 2 years, Windows 10 support has been announced that the end date is October 14th, 2025. So it's quite likely that this isn't the first time you're hearing about this. But I did have a friend reach out, what to do, will my computer stop working, etc. So rather than just answer questions for her, I thought I'd offer some tips, what I'm telling my clients, what I'm doing myself, etc., on one of the Windows 10 machines that I have. So first, the deadline. So I have my little countdown timer here. Now I've got this set for Monday night at midnight Eastern time. You'll see some things that I show in the links that it's probably a day later. It's probably have through the 14th, but I'm assuming that it ends at midnight on the 13th. So anyway, you'll see some things that I'll share later that will give you just barely a little bit more time, but just to kind of give you some ideas. So okay, so Windows 10. First, I'm going to scroll down. There's some things, I'm not going to go through each of these, but what does end of support mean? Will my Windows 10 computer stop working entirely? So, no. The computer, your computer's not going to stop booting. Support for Windows 10 is discontinued, and that will absolutely be important for reasons that I'll talk to in a second. But after that, your computer will no longer receive security updates. That's the biggie. Because what will happen is there are people out there that have been sitting through that know there's vulnerabilities, because Windows updates itself constantly. So security updates are what keeps your computer protected in addition to your antivirus. You absolutely still want to continue to keep your antivirus running for sure. But my recommendation is if you have a Windows 10 computer and it's not going to be updated, I'll give you a possible lifeline in a moment, but we'll kind of navigate through this step by step. But if you don't intend to do this, I would not connect to the internet, because what will happen is there's scammers and hackers that are just waiting for the updates to stop. They're already aware of vulnerabilities, I'm sure, that as soon as Microsoft they know will no longer update that, then they're going to attack in ways that they are aware of that are quote-unquote unpatched by Microsoft, and we know that after this date they will not be patched, so they're just waiting, and if your computer's connected to the internet, then you're vulnerable. So hopefully you've been backing up your files. Meanwhile, in my friend's case, she has not. She knows she has files on the computer that she wants to get off, etc. So I'm not going to talk about, I'm not going to make this an hour-long video about all the things about backing up and all that stuff, but you definitely can continue to run that. My recommendation is do not let your computer connect to the internet. Normally, you would not want that to happen, because how would it get updates? But we know that's not going to happen. But then any files on the computer, any backups that you need to make, files to get off the computer or whatever, then you can continue to use it for that. Of course, you can use it for Microsoft Word, etc. Of course, if you're not connected to the internet, Microsoft Word isn't getting updates either. But if you're not connected to the internet, no one's going to be able to reach your computer. So, alright, so let's step back. So down at the bottom here, you see this Extended Security Updates program. So I have another tab up. Now this isn't, I'll explain this. This is just only for consumers. It's not for businesses. But I'm going to walk through this at least in the high level. I have my contact information over here. I can help you connect, give you a recording of your advice specific to you. This isn't intended to be very all-inclusive, but I will include the links to everything that I talk about after I reboot my computer. I will have that in the description of this YouTube video. Anyway, so what that does is that gives you a slight lifeline. So how can you use it? Whatever. It helps reduce the risk of malware and cybersecurity updates, like I talked about, by providing access to critical and important security updates. Now, very important, you must there's a whole list of requirements that you have to use to enroll in this. So you have to be on the absolute latest of Windows version 10 to qualify for this. And then, if there's other things other than security updates, it's not really going to do this, and there's no technical support provided with Microsoft for this. Now, if you know yourself and you know that, oh well, oh yeah, I'll just procrastinate and I'll just wait, and that'll give me another year. Okay, so then I would recommend not enrolling in this program if that's your intention. If it's just another tool for procrastination, just another way of extending it out, if you know yourself and you know that's you, it's not intended for that. It is only to buy yourself a little bit more time to do that. However, because it's been announced for quite a while, if you've reached the end of here, do this. So it allows you to enroll at any time until the program ends. So you don't have to enroll. So if you need some time to work through these things, so I'm just going to do very high level. And again, my contact information is over here. So happy to reach out and help you navigate this, because it's as a techie, this is all understandable to me. But if you're not a techie and you're not familiar, these things could be intimidating. Again, have to be running the latest version. Okay, have to have all the latest updates installed. So if you're someone that doesn't have all your updates installed already, you have to have this. This could be confusing, but you have a Microsoft account. Only one of those is the administrator. You might log in as a non-administrator and not even know what your administrator account login is, but you have to know that. And as it explains here, it can't be a child account, meaning it can't be a non-administrator account. You cannot do this. So, okay, so now, right here. So you can't use it if you're using it for business. This is not for that. A lot of these things won't apply to you as a home user, so I'm not going to talk about it, but, things that you cannot do here, these are mostly for business kind of things. So don't sweat that. And now, down here, if you were simply upgrading, I'll show you this. Here's a screen. So rather than talk about this in words, here's your three options when you use this. Here's how to do it. If you're a techie and or comfortable doing this, you're welcome to do it yourself, etc. But here's how you would go about it. But I'm going to show you the screen you would see. So the only way it's quote unquote free is if you say, oh yeah, I'm going to be moving to a Windows 11 computer, so I need to back up all my settings. That's the only way that you get this for free. Otherwise, you can pay a one-time cost of $30 plus taxes to basically buy yourself a year of updates for security only. And I don't have Microsoft reward points. You probably don't either. So, but it'll tell you if you have any points, and you can redeem 1,000 points if you want to do it that way. But most people are going to do this, back up your PC settings. So okay, so I'm going to switch back to here and see if there's anything else I want to address here. Of course, you're welcome to open and close these as you like, but your computer will continue to work. Okay, so I touched on Word, etc. So what will happen, you might have a very old version of Microsoft Office Word or Office, so 2016 and 2019 will end as well. Whatever. But I continue, most people probably have a recurring subscription at this point, Microsoft 365, that's what it's recommending, this idea. But it tells you through here, maybe your support is ending for Word as well. And then this is more like a recycling kind of thing, so, whatever. So my personal recommendation is always to pull the hard drive out before you do it. There's ways that you can protect yourself, but the data is still on there and could be pulled off by someone, whatever. So I don't want to be overkill on that, but just kind of touching through there. So okay, so a possible lifeline in this extended security updates Extended Security Updates Program, possible lifeline. Okay, so now, one other thing that came up with a friend is she said, I just bought this computer, like last Black Friday. So she only got a year out of this, where Windows 10 has been out for a long time. So let's talk about Windows 11. Is she about to hop into the same thing? Is there going to be a Windows 12? So let's address this. So right now, Windows 11, the very first version, has been out since October 4th, 2021. So we're already more than 4 years into the use of Windows 11. And there's still plenty of people that don't want to switch to the new version or whatever, but eventually, to keep up to date, you need to. Okay, so I'm about to show you how you can find out what your version is. I happen to be on a Windows 11 machine recording this, so you'll see what I'm on, and etc. Okay, so the very first release of Windows 11, or at least the very first version of updates, this is probably the very first version of Windows 11 entirely, not the first update, but October 4th of 2021. Okay, so for about 2 years that version was supported. Then 22H2, you can see each through these, once they're released, they're supported for about 2 years. Okay, so the version that I happen to be on right now is 24H2. 25H2 just was released like 11 days ago. So I'm not on the absolute latest version of Windows 11, but I have, though I will not take, I don't like to wait till the very end there. But I have, on the version that I'm on, I have, like I say, about 2 years from the start. So I have until roughly about a year from now, a year and a couple of days, October 13th of 2026 on the version that I'm on now. So now I'm going to show you how to find your version, whether you're on Windows 10 or 11. You do not have to have the on-screen keyboard called up, but I'm going to show you this. So this is the Win key or the Windows key. So I'm going to press that key and you'll see it light up. And you will not see the R as in Robert light up when I press it, but there will be a little box appear down here. So I'm just going to hit the Windows R. And no matter what you have in there, I have the command prompt, and you don't have to worry about that, whatever that is for you. And whether you're in upper or lowercase, it doesn't matter. So just to show you, upper and lowercase doesn't matter. And then you can hit the enter key, or I'm just going to press the OK key so you can see that I'm using the mouse as well. Now, of course, you also will likely, if you're watching this video, will likely say Windows 10. And then, as you can see, I'm on 24H2. Get that call back up here. And then it'll tell you whether you're on the home version or the pro version or whatever you're on. But the main thing is it'll say Windows 10 and it'll give you a version, because again, you must be on the absolute latest and have all updates applied before this program will work for you. So here's the prerequisites for this program to be of use to you. Okay, so that's how you can tell that. Now I'm going to go back to Windows 11. Now, I do not know if there's going to be a 26H2. I'm not saying that Windows 11 will be done by about 2 years from now, 2 years in a day. It's possible, but all I did is typed in a Google search and then got a little AI summary here. So let's navigate this. Is there going to be a Windows 11, Windows 12? Has it been announced? No, it's not been announced yet. So we don't know. So we have about, at a minimum, we have another couple of years of Windows 12, or I'm sorry, Windows 11. So we have another couple of years at least. Whether there will be a 26H2 or beyond, we don't know. So, okay, so is there, just a Google search, is there going to be a Windows 12? It says no, a version of Windows 12 has not been officially announced and there's no firm plans for its release. Now, of course, there's been rumors. So back about 4 months ago, PC Mag, which is a consumer magazine as well. So we won't likely be seeing it anytime soon. But the rumors are there will be a Windows 12, and you can see, just a Google search how this whole thing. But to answer my friend's point about, hey, I just bought this computer a year ago, etc. And then the last thing I'll address is, I talked to a local pawn shop, and they're not at present stopping accepting. So you might end up at a pawn shop and end up with a Windows 10 machine and really be no use to you when you get it home. So you do have to be watching that, and that's just a local pawn shop that's not presently stopping taking Windows 10. They know at some point they will. As an example, they they will not buy a Windows 7 machine or a Windows 8 machine. So eventually they'll stop, that you won't even be able to pawn it. That's not really a good recommendation either. I would not recommend that you try to do that. What is always surprising to folks is that they're always surprised about how little money they get, either from a pawn shop or how much people are willing to pay. They want to get as much money as they paid for it out of that, and that's just not the way it works. Because if you're thinking like that, oh, I'll just buy a used computer and pay less. If you put a few more dollars with it, you can get an absolute modern computer, etc. with it. So a lot of times people try to, on the selling side and the buying side, the buyers always want to pay bottom dollar. The sellers want to get as much money as they paid for it originally back, and it just doesn't work that way. It doesn't work well for sellers or buyers of used computers in that way a lot of times. So anyway, not to say that, I've certainly I buy a lot of used computers off of Facebook Marketplace, fix them up, make sure they're free of malware, etc. For my budget conscious clients, etc. But generally speaking, go out and get a new machine, etc. Whatever. So now, if you find yourself in the case, and it's just now you're coming down to the thing, your computer might be eligible to upgrade to Windows 11. You have to meet certain minimum system requirements, and I would also caution that there's a difference between its ability to run Windows 11 and its capability of running Windows 11 well. So the closer you are to the minimum system requirements for Windows 11, the less likely is that it's going to run well. It might be upgradable to Windows 11, but then it's not going to work. It's going to bog down. It's going to not work as well as you're used to it working with Windows 10. So that's another consideration. My personal preference is to not upgrade. I just go out and get a new PC with it installed on it. But I understand if you're in a budget situation where you cannot do that and you're capable of upgrading to Windows 11. I just wanted to throw out that caution to you because you don't want to discover that after the fact. And again, I'm happy to talk with you. I would encourage you to reach out and talk. So you probably have 3 days. And again, this is I don't want you to think it's like, oh yeah, it's like you got 3 days to decide, whatever. You've probably been aware of this for a long time, but now it's getting down to crunch time. So if you intend to stick with Windows 10 for now, whether you get into this ESU or not, my recommendation, if you're not getting Windows updates as without enrolling in this ESU, then I would disconnect from the internet. Understand that there are ways, because you're going to have to connect to keep your antivirus up to date. I am aware of that, but you certainly want to minimize the amount of time that you do that. Viruses spread often through the internet. That's not the only way you can get a virus, but you want to. You're just buying yourself a little bit more time about making the right decision about your next computer. So anyway, so I'm going to stop this. I'm about to record a video. One other topic that came up was how to safely, because you don't want Windows to become corrupted, then it stop working. So how should you have been always restarting your computer? Don't just turn it off the switch. So I'm going to address that in the next video, and then I will drop the links that I've shown up here in the description of this video after I reboot. So it'll take some time. If you discover this video and you don't see those links there, you just got alerted by YouTube as soon as the video got recorded. So those links will be in the description, and have a great day. Happy to reach out. I can log in as long as you have internet access to your computer. I can log in directly. We can give you a recording of everything we talk about, and it will be personalized exactly to your exact case. So happy to hear from you by cell phone, by email, or you can go to my website so for more information. So have a great day.